Welcome once again, Untamed Hearts, to Tales by Jenny Moon, where passion runs wild and fated love knows no boundaries. Here, alphas and omegas collide under moonlit skies, forbidden desires spark, and every story pulls you deeper into a world of romance, danger, and supernatural intrigue. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to join our pack. You won't want to miss a single heartbeat of these untamed tales.
I had always imagined the moment I would meet my fated mate under the moonlight. The elders spoke of it as though it was a blessing, a spark so undeniable that even the coldest wolf would be melted in its heat. I had clung to those stories since I was a girl, whispering them to myself when nights grew lonely, telling my wolf, one day, he will come and everything will make sense. That night, the full moon hung fat and silver in the sky, spilling its glow over the gathering ground. The pack had assembled, their voices humming low as anticipation rippled through the air. Every month during the moon's peak, new bonds were revealed, wolves finding the other half of their soul. It was sacred. It was destiny. It was the heartbeat of who we were. My chest was tight, my palms damp against the fabric of my dress. My wolf, restless beneath my skin, prowled with wild hope. She whispered in my mind, a voice of instinct and raw yearning. Tonight, we find him. And then, my gaze caught his. Damien, the beta of the pack. Broad-shouldered, sharp-eyed, with the kind of confidence that made wolves bow their heads when he walked by. I had known him all my life, but in that instant, under the moon's silver gaze, he wasn't just Damien. He was mine. The bond snapped into place with a ferocity that stole the air from my lungs. My knees nearly buckled as the force of it surged through me. Fire, lightning, gravity all at once. My wolf screamed in joy. Mate, our mate. I opened my mouth to speak his name, to breathe out the truth written in my bones, but he beat me to it. His face was a mask of stone. His eyes narrowed as if what he saw disgusted him. And then, in a voice loud enough for everyone to hear, Damien said the words that shattered me. I reject you, Luna. The world tilted. My ears roared. For a second, I thought I had misheard him, that the shock had warped his words. But no, the look in his eyes left no room for doubt. Cold, calculated, cruel. The crowd gasped. Whispers spread like wildfire through the wolves gathered around us. I felt their eyes piercing into me, some wide with pity, others gleaming with sick satisfaction. My wolf staggered back inside me, her cry echoing through every corner of my soul. The mate bond, that luminous thread that had just formed between us, ripped violently apart. The pain was unbearable, like claws raking down my chest, like my very heart had been torn out while still beating. I dropped to my knees, choking on the scream that clawed its way up my throat. No! The word broke out of me, raw and desperate. I lifted my gaze to Damien, praying for some sign, any sign, that this was a mistake, a misunderstanding, a cruel jest. Please, don't. But he stood tall, unyielding, his lips curling with disdain. You think you're worthy of me? His voice cut like a blade. You're weak, Luna. You're nothing. A beta deserves a mate who strengthens him, not one who drags him down. The words gutted me. I could feel each one sinking into my flesh, branding me with shame. My wolf whimpered, shrinking into the shadows of my soul. She wanted to fight, to lunge at him, to tear his lies apart. But the bond's severance had crippled her. Together, we were nothing but shards of what we had been moments ago. I wanted to rise, to scream at him, to claw the truth from his chest. But my body betrayed me, trembling, weak. All I could do was kneel there under the merciless moon, as the entire pack watched me break. A cruel laugh sounded from the crowd. Someone muttered, "Pathetic." Another voice whispered, "No wonder he doesn't want her." Each comment was a dagger, twisting deeper into wounds that already bled. Damien didn't flinch. He didn't waver. He had made his choice, and he wanted me and everyone to know it. I, Damien Blackthorne, beta of this pack, reject you, Luna Winters, as my mate. The words sealed it. The mate bond splintered with finality, and the agony that ripped through me was worse than anything I had ever endured. It wasn't just emotional, it was physical, soul deep, tearing apart every fiber of my being. I gasped, clutching at my chest, as though I could hold the pieces of myself together by sheer force. The moon, once a promise of destiny, now mocked me with its indifferent glow. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. The weight of every eye, every whispered word, pressed down until I thought I might disappear. But even through the haze of pain, one truth began to harden in my chest. If Damien thought I was weak, if my pack thought I was unworthy, then I would leave. I would carve out a place where no one could strip me of my worth again. The mate bond was broken, but I was still alive. And as long as I drew breath, I would not let this humiliation be the end of me. I forced myself to stand, though my legs trembled and my vision swam. My wolf whimpered, but there was a spark in her still, a stubborn ember that refused to die. I raised my chin, meeting Damien's gaze one last time. One day, I whispered, my voice hoarse but steady, "You will regret this." The crowd erupted with whispers again, but I didn't wait to hear them. I turned, pushing through the sea of wolves, each step agony and defiance rolled into one. Behind me, the pack's voices blurred, Damien's rejection echoing in my mind. The night air was cold against my burning cheeks as I stumbled into the forest, away from the gathering, away from the suffocating stares. Branches tore at my skin, my lungs burned, but I kept running. Somewhere deep inside, beneath the grief and humiliation, I felt the faintest pulse of something else. Not hope, not yet, but survival. And survival, I decided, would be enough. The forest swallowed me, but not fast enough. I could still hear them behind me, the laughter, the whispers, the venomous pity that burned hotter than fire. Every word carved itself into my skin as though branded there. Pathetic, weak, unworthy. My wolf whimpered in the back of my mind, still bleeding from the severed bond. The pain wasn't just inside my chest. It was everywhere, coursing through my veins like poison, dragging claws down my ribs, gnawing at the marrow of my bones. Every heartbeat felt wrong, too heavy, too empty, too broken. I stumbled through the undergrowth, clutching my chest as though I could hold my shattered soul together. The moonlight poured down between the trees, mocking me with its brightness. Once I had thought the moon's blessing was sacred. Tonight, it had become a curse. My knees buckled, and I collapsed onto the cold earth. The scent of damp soil filled my lungs as I gasped, dragging air that didn't seem to help. My whole body shook, racked with tremors that felt less like crying and more like dying. I can't. The words slipped out, raw and broken, tears choking me. I can't survive this. But I was still breathing. That was the cruelest part. The bond's rejection hadn't killed me, though it felt like it should have. Instead, it left me alive to feel every shard of my broken soul cutting deeper with each breath. Images of Damien's face flashed in my mind, those cold, unyielding eyes, the way his lips curled in disgust. The sound of his voice echoed, louder than the pounding of my heart. I reject you. I clawed at the ground, my nails tearing the earth, a strangled scream ripping out of me. The forest swallowed the sound, but it wasn't enough to silence the torment inside me. When the storm of agony eased just enough for me to breathe, I became aware of something else. The pack. I could hear them still, their voices carried on the wind. Not close, but close enough. Did you see her face? Gods, she looked like she might puke. Beta Damien deserves better. She was never strong enough. She's cursed, that one. No wonder he didn't want her. Each word cut deeper than claws. I pressed my hands to my ears, but the whispers weren't only outside. They were inside, woven into my thoughts now, feeding my despair. They're right. You are unworthy. No, My voice shook, barely a whisper. I bit down on my lip until I tasted blood, forcing myself to drown out the lies. But the pain was relentless, my wolf curling tighter inside me, her once bright spirit dimming to ashes. Please, I begged her, begged myself, begged the moon. Don't leave me like this. She whimpered, too weak to answer. That was the moment I realized something chilling. If I stayed here, in this pack, surrounded by their sneers and Damien's shadow, I wouldn't survive. They would devour me piece by piece, stripping away what little was left until nothing remained. I pictured it, living each day under those stairs, hearing the whispers, feeling Damien's presence as a constant reminder of my broken bond. The thought alone made my chest seize with panic. I couldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. Slowly, painfully, I pushed myself to my feet. My legs shook, my vision swam, but I forced one breath, then another. The earth beneath me was unsteady, the air too heavy, but I clung to one truth. If I wanted to live, I had to leave. The decision didn't come like a spark. It came like the slow cracking of ice, spreading outward until the whole surface shattered beneath me. I'm done, I whispered into the darkness. My voice was hoarse, my throat raw, but there was steel buried in the sound. I won't beg for scraps of worth in a place that only wants to see me broken. If this pack thinks I am unworthy, I lifted my chin, though tears still streamed down my cheeks. Then I will find somewhere else to prove them wrong. The forest answered with silence, but something inside me shifted. It wasn't healing. My heart was still in pieces, my wolf still trembling, but it was resolve, fragile, flickering, but alive. And that was enough. I staggered back toward the clearing, not to face them, but to gather what little was mine. Each step back felt heavier than the last. By the time I broke through the tree line, the crowd had thinned, most dispersing after their night of spectacle. But some lingered. Eyes turned to me, sharp with judgment, gleaming with scorn. Whispers rose again like a tide. There she is. Still standing? Surprising. She won't last the week. I clenched my fists, nails biting into my palms, forcing myself not to cry again. Not here. Not in front of them. I met their gazes one by one, refusing to look away, even as my wolf whimpered inside me. I wanted them to see it, that I was still here, still breathing, even if broken. Damien was gone, thank the gods. I wasn't sure if I could have withstood his presence again without shattering completely. I slipped into my small cabin on the edge of the pack's territory. The silence inside pressed heavy against me, the walls suffocating in their emptiness. I stared at the few belongings scattered around the room: clothes, a worn blanket, a handful of books. Things that suddenly felt meaningless. I sank onto the bed, pulling the blanket around me, trying to find warmth against the cold inside my chest. My body ached as though I had been beaten, my mind replaying the moment of rejection over and over. But under the despair, there was a steady pulse of determination. I would not let this pack be the end of me. I would not give Damien the satisfaction of seeing me waste away. If they wanted me gone, if they wanted to brand me unworthy, then I would carve out a place where their whispers could never reach. Tomorrow, I would leave. The thought terrified me. Beyond these borders lay rogues, rival packs, dangers I had never faced alone. But none of it could be worse than staying here, shackled to shame and rejection. I closed my eyes, letting exhaustion drag me under. My wolf stirred faintly, her voice weak but present. We will survive, somehow. And though the ache in my chest never dulled, a single tear slipped down my cheek as I whispered back, yes, we will. The morning I left my pack was colder than any night I'd ever known. The sun had barely risen when I slipped out of my cabin, carrying nothing but a small satchel. Clothes, food, a knife I barely knew how to use, that was all. Every step away from the only home I had ever known felt like tearing open another wound. No one stopped me. No one called out. If anything, I felt the eyes of sentries on the border, watching me go with a mixture of relief and contempt. Let them watch. Let them whisper. I would rather face the unknown than die by their stares. The forest beyond the border was denser, wilder. The air smelled different, less familiar, tinged with danger. My wolf stirred weakly inside me, still fragile, still aching from Damien's rejection. But she pressed forward, urging me on, anywhere but here. Hours passed. I walked until my legs burned, until blisters formed on my feet, until every breath was fire in my lungs. The world was vast, and for the first time in my life, I was utterly alone in it. The silence should have been comforting, but it wasn't. It pressed against me, heavy and eerie, broken only by the occasional snap of a twig or distant cry of a bird. My nerves stretched thin with every sound, and I kept glancing over my shoulder, half expecting someone from my pack to appear. But no one came. Instead, the danger found me in another form. It began with a rustle, then another, then the unmistakable crunch of paws on leaves. My wolf bristled inside me, hackles rising, her warning sharp and urgent. Rogues. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. My wolf's energy surged, but she was too weak to shift, too drained from our broken bond. I was exposed, vulnerable. A low growl slithered from the shadows, and then they stepped into view. 3 wolves, their eyes glowing red with madness, their coats matted with filth. Rogues, wolves stripped of pack and sanity, living only to kill or devour. Panic clawed up my throat. I stumbled back, clutching my knife like it was more than a piece of sharpened steel. My heart thundered so loud I thought it might give me away before they even lunged. The first wolf snarled, lips curling back to reveal jagged teeth. They circled me, 3 predators savoring the sight of prey. "Stay back!" My voice cracked, pathetic against their growls. My hands trembled, the knife quivering in my grip. They didn't listen. One leapt. I screamed, slashing wildly, barely grazing its flank. The wolf's weight knocked me to the ground, the knife clattering out of my hand. Hot breath filled my face, teeth snapping inches from my throat. I shoved against its chest with all the strength I had, but I was nothing compared to its feral power. Terror flooded me. This was it. This was how I would die, torn apart in a nameless forest, forgotten by the world. But then, the air shifted. A roar thundered through the trees, so deep and commanding it vibrated through the earth itself. The rogue on top of me stiffened, its ears flattening. In the next heartbeat, it was ripped away from me, flung aside like it weighed nothing. I gasped, scrambling onto my elbows, and froze. Out of the shadows emerged a wolf unlike any I had ever seen. Massive, towering, his coat black as midnight with streaks of silver glinting under the sun. His presence swallowed the clearing, a force of nature in flesh and fur. Power radiated from him, thick as smoke, suffocating and magnetic. The rogues snarled, but it was weak, fearful. They recognized what I did instantly. An alpha, not just any alpha. A predator, a king, a beast carved from raw dominance. He moved like shadow and fire, a blur of muscle and fury. His teeth tore into one rogue, blood spraying as the wolf's howl ended in a gurgle. Another lunged, but the black wolf was faster, slamming it to the ground with bone-crushing force. The third turned to flee, but a single snap of his jaws ended it before it took 3 steps. It was over in seconds. The clearing reeked of blood, the corpses of rogues strewn like broken dolls. And at the center of it, the black wolf stood tall, unscathed, his chest heaving with lethal grace. Then his eyes found me, golden, piercing, burning. The moment they met mine, my world shifted. It wasn't the firestorm I had felt with Damien. It was an inferno, hotter, darker, consuming. My wolf stirred violently, her pain forgotten in an instant as she screamed one word, louder than I had ever heard her. Mate. My breath caught, my chest squeezed so tight I thought my ribs might crack. I shook my head, disbelief crashing over me. No, it couldn't be. Fate wouldn't be so cruel. Wouldn't rip me apart one night only to chain me the next. But my wolf knew. She surged forward, pressing against me, clawing to get closer. The bond thrummed in my veins, undeniable and feral. The wolf shifted. Bones cracked, fur melted away, and in his place stood a man. A man like no other. Tall, broad, his body carved with power, scars marking his skin like trophies of 100 battles. His dark hair clung to his temples with sweat, his jaw sharp, his mouth a line of ruthless command. But it was his eyes that trapped me, those same golden flames that had cut through me moments before. He didn't look at me like Damien had, not with disgust, not with pity. He looked at me like I was already his. The silence stretched, thick with tension. My heart pounded, my wolf howled, and then his voice came, low and rough, carrying the weight of command. "You are mine!" The words crashed over me like a tidal wave, leaving me breathless, trembling. I wanted to deny it, to scream at him, to run, but my wolf surged forward, her answer immediate, unshakable. Yes. Ours. I staggered back, shaking my head, tears burning my eyes. No, I can't. Not again. His gaze sharpened, his lips curling into the faintest, most dangerous smirk. He took a step toward me, the earth seeming to bend under his weight. "You can deny me with your lips," he murmured, his voice like velvet over steel. "But your wolf already knows the truth. From the moment I saw you, I claimed you." My knees threatened to buckle. My chest burned, torn between terror and a pull so strong it terrified me. This wasn't Damien's rejection. This was something far more dangerous. Something that promised not only desire, but destruction. Alpha Kale, my mate, my doom. My lips trembled around words I couldn't shape. My heart screamed no, my wolf screamed yes, and somewhere in the storm between them, I stood paralyzed. Kale's golden gaze locked me in place. His presence filled the clearing like a storm cloud, suffocating and irresistible. My body ached to move, forward, backward, anywhere, but I was rooted by the weight of his eyes. Behind him, movement stirred. I hadn't even noticed them until now, but warriors slipped out of the shadows, their scents sharp with dominance and iron. His pack. They had followed him silently, waiting while their alpha ripped rogues apart like kindling. They looked at me now with open curiosity, some with hunger, others with envy. And then Kale's voice cut through the silence, deep and absolute, the kind of voice that didn't allow room for denial. "She is mine." The words cracked through the clearing like a whip. My heart jolted, my knees trembling as every warrior dropped their head in instant obedience. No one questioned, no one doubted. My pulse hammered against my ribs. "No," I whispered, my voice breaking. My throat was raw, but I forced the word out again, louder. "No, you don't know me. You can't just take me." Kyle's head tilted, that faint, dangerous smirk curving his lips again. "Can't I?" His steps closed the space between us, each one slow and deliberate. My instincts screamed to run, but my wolf howled in protest, clawing inside me, desperate to leap into his arms. I fought her with everything I had, nails digging into my palms until they bled. "I don't belong to you," I spat, though the quiver in my voice betrayed me. His hand shot out, fingers wrapping around my chin, tilting my face up to his. The touch wasn't gentle. It was firm, commanding, searing heat into my skin. His golden eyes burned into mine, stripping me bare. "You will," he said softly, dangerously. "Whether you accept it today, tomorrow, or a year from now, you will, because you are mine, and nothing, no broken beta, no pack of cowards, will change that." My breath caught, rage and terror warring with the bond thrumming in my veins. His touch sent shivers down my spine, and I hated myself for it. "I already had a mate," I hissed, shoving at his chest with trembling hands. "And he rejected me. He broke me. Do you understand? I can't." My voice cracked, pain slicing through me. "I can't go through that again." Kale's eyes darkened, his grip tightening just slightly, enough to remind me who held the power here. then he was a fool. And if you think I will ever make the same mistake. His lips brushed dangerously close to my ear, his voice a low growl. You don't know me at all. My body betrayed me with a violent shiver. My wolf whined, torn between fear and raw need. Kale released my chin, but his presence lingered like a brand. He turned to his warriors, his voice carrying like thunder. Take her back to the stronghold. No! My cry tore from me, sharp with panic. I'm not going with you. Kale's gaze slid back to me, sharp and unyielding. Would you rather stay here, with rogues who'll tear you apart by sundown? Or perhaps return to the pack that cast you out, where your beta watches you like spoiled meat? His words hit harder than claws. He knew. Somehow he knew about Damien, about my shame. My throat closed, my eyes burning with unshed tears. Kale stepped closer again, lowering his voice so only I could hear. I am not offering you a choice, little wolf. I am giving you truth. Out there, you will die. With me, you will live. And soon enough, you will understand what it means to be claimed by an alpha. I shook my head, trembling. You can't just decide this for me. I don't want you. A flicker of something unreadable passed over his face, but it vanished in an instant, replaced by that ruthless certainty. Your wolf disagrees. And damn him, he was right. I felt her pushing, clawing inside me, desperate to close the distance between us. My body betrayed me with every heartbeat, thrumming with the bond I had no power to deny. No, I whispered, but it sounded hollow, weak. Kyle's smirk returned, sharper now, like a predator savoring the inevitable. Fight me all you want. Curse me, hate me. It makes no difference. You are mine. With a sharp gesture, he motioned to his warriors. 2 of them stepped forward, their eyes lowered in respect, but their grip firm as they moved to flank me. I lashed out, shoving, kicking, panic tearing through me. Let me go! I won't go with you! Kyle watched, silent, his golden gaze burning with something dark and hungry. He didn't lift a finger to stop me, but neither did he order his warriors to release me. He wanted to see me fight. He wanted me to burn all my strength against the inevitable. By the time they pinned me, my breath came in ragged gasps, my body trembling from exhaustion and rage. Tears blurred my vision, hot trails cutting down my cheeks. Kyle approached slowly, every inch the alpha who knew he'd already won. He crouched in front of me, his hand brushing a strand of hair from my damp face, his touch deceptively tender. You will hate me for this, he murmured, eyes locking onto mine. But one day, you will also thank me. Never, I spat, my voice raw. His lips curved, not in amusement, but in a grim promise. We'll see. Then, without breaking eye contact, he turned to his warriors. Bring her home. The word home sliced through me like a blade. This wasn't home. It never could be. And yet, as they dragged me to my feet and Kale's shadow loomed beside me, some treacherous part of me, the part that was wolf, that was bond, that was broken, whispered the truth I refused to speak aloud. I was already his, and no amount of denial could change it. The journey to Kale's stronghold blurred into fragments of fear and exhaustion. His warriors flanked me on either side, their grips iron whenever I stumbled. I had fought until my body gave out, until my lungs burned and my limbs shook. Now all I had left was the hollow echo of defeat. But inside, my wolf still thrashed. She didn't see defeat. She saw him. Every step closer to Kale's territory, she pressed harder, clawing at me, whispering the same word over and over like a prayer. Mate, mate, mate. I wanted to scream at her, to tear her voice out of me. How could she betray me like this after what Damien had done? Didn't she remember how it felt when a bond was ripped apart? Didn't she remember the humiliation, the agony? But my wolf remembered something else too. Kale's golden eyes, his voice rumbling like thunder, the way his power wrapped around us and made even rogues tremble. By the time we crossed into his land, the sky had turned crimson with dusk. The stronghold rose from the forest like something out of a nightmare. stone walls, towers, flames flickering in braziers that painted the night with an eerie glow. It wasn't just a fortress, it was a declaration. This is mine. Enter at your own peril. I was shoved inside the gates. Wolves turned their heads to look. Warriors, pack members, men and women with eyes sharp as knives. Their gazes slid over me, assessing, curious, some even openly hostile. Whispers rippled through them, though not like in my old pack. There was no pity here, only hunger. She's the one. The alphas claim. She doesn't look like much. I bit the inside of my cheek until I tasted blood, forcing myself not to flinch, not to show them how badly I wanted to shrink into nothing. Kyle's presence followed me like a shadow. He walked at my side now, towering, commanding, every step radiating authority. He didn't touch me, not yet, but the space between us crackled like a live wire. My skin burned as if he were already there, already claiming me without a single hand laid. When we reached the massive hall at the stronghold's center, Kale dismissed his warriors with a flick of his hand. They bowed and melted into the shadows, leaving me alone with him. The silence pressed down, thick and suffocating. I turned on him, forcing my voice through the tightness in my throat. Why me? My words came out ragged, cracked. You don't even know me. Why claim me? He stopped, his gaze sweeping over me like a predator appraising prey that already belonged to him. I don't need to know you, he said simply, as though it was the most obvious truth. My wolf knows. That is enough. The certainty in his tone made me want to shatter. How could he say it so easily when I was still bleeding from Damien? Damien. His name alone was a wound. That night, when I finally collapsed into the bed they gave me, a room that was far too lavish for a prisoner, with furs and warmth I hadn't expected, I thought exhaustion would drag me into oblivion. But when I closed my eyes, I saw him, Damien's face, his eyes narrowing with disgust, his lips curling as he rejected me, as he tore our bond to pieces. The dream was vivid, cruel. I heard his voice as though he stood at my bedside. You were never enough, Luna. Never strong enough. Never worthy. I woke with a scream strangled in my throat, my chest heaving, sweat clinging to my skin. My wolf whimpered, pressing against me with comfort, but it wasn't enough. I curled into myself, fighting to push away the ache of that broken bond. And then, another presence. The air shifted, heavy and charged. I looked up, and Kyle was there, leaning against the doorframe, golden eyes glinting in the dim light. I hadn't heard him come in. He was too quiet for a man his size, too predatory. You dream of him. His voice was low, not a question but a statement. My throat closed. Get out. He didn't move. Your scent changes when you dream of him. Sour. Wrong. He stepped closer, his presence filling the room until I could hardly breathe. You're mine now. That bond should not linger. I clenched my fists, nails digging into my palms. You can't erase it. You can't erase him. Kyle crouched in front of me, his eyes blazing. I can, and I will. His hand reached out, fingers brushing my cheek. My skin ignited where he touched, heat flooding through me against my will. I hated it. I hated him. And yet, I leaned into it just slightly before I could stop myself. My wolf pushed forward, desperate for more. No, I whispered, shaking my head violently. I don't want this. I don't want you. Kyle's lips curved, not in amusement but in something darker, satisfaction. Lies, he murmured. Your body betrays you. Your wolf betrays you. You fight, but you will break. His proximity was overwhelming, suffocating. Every breath tasted of him, smoke, pine, iron. My heart thundered, torn between fear and something far more dangerous. I shoved at his chest with shaking hands. You're not him. You're not my mate. His eyes narrowed, golden fire piercing into me. No, I am not Damien. I will never throw you aside. I will never call you unworthy. You will never kneel before me in shame. You will kneel because you choose to. My stomach twisted, heat rushing through me at his words even as bile rose in my throat. I hated the way he spoke, hated how my wolf howled in wild agreement. Tears stung my eyes. I don't want to belong to anyone. Kyle's hand slid down to grip my jaw, tilting my face up until there was nowhere left to look but into him. Then you will belong to me. The words rang like a sentence, sealing around me tighter than chains. I should have screamed, cursed, shoved him away. But all I did was tremble, torn between defiance and the magnetic pull I couldn't understand. Kyle's gaze softened for the first time, just barely. I will prove it to you, that you are mine, that you were never meant for him. His thumb brushed against my lip, sending another wave of fire racing through me. And one day, you will beg me to claim you. My breath hitched, rage and shame burning in my chest. Never. His smirk returned, dangerous and sure. We'll see. He rose, leaving me quivering in the dark, his shadow heavy on my skin long after he left. When the door shut, I collapsed back onto the bed, clutching the sheets like they could anchor me. My body still hummed with his presence, my wolf restless, aching, desperate. But in the hollow ache of my chest, Damien's voice still echoed. 2 wolves, 2 bonds, one torn to pieces, the other clawing to consume me. And I was caught between them, bleeding. Sleep refused me that night. Every time I closed my eyes, Damien's rejection stabbed through me like a fresh wound. And behind that wound, like a shadow licking at its edges, stood Kyle. His words pressed against me, hot and suffocating. You will beg me to claim you. My wolf tossed inside me, restless and hungry. I hated her for it, hated how easily she turned toward Kyle, how she whimpered whenever I pushed him away. By dawn, I was hollow. The stronghold was alive when I was let out. Warriors sparred in the courtyard, their grunts echoing against the stone walls. Their gazes followed me again, some curious, some hateful, some hungry, but none dared come close. Not with Kale's scent still clinging to me. The guards ushered me into a chamber I hadn't seen before. It wasn't a throne room, though it might as well have been. A wide fireplace blazed, furs scattered across stone floors, and shelves stacked with maps and weapons lined the walls. Kale was waiting. He stood with his back to me, stripped to the waist, golden light from the fire flickering across the scars carved into his skin. Some looked like claw marks, others like burns. He was a map of violence, every line a story I didn't want to know. And yet, I stared. As though sensing it, Kyle turned, his eyes locking onto mine like he had been waiting for me to arrive. You didn't sleep, he said. It wasn't a question. I clenched my jaw. You were in my room. You don't need to play at knowing me. His lips curved, sharp and humorless. I don't need to play. I know. He stepped closer, barefoot and unhurried, every move coiled with authority. I fought the urge to step back. You hate me for what I said. His gaze slid over my face, down to where my hands were curled tight against my sides. But hate is still tether. Hate means you feel me. I swallowed hard, refusing to give him the satisfaction of a response. For a long moment, he studied me in silence. Then he moved past me, toward a chest near the fire. When he opened it, I caught a glimpse of something I hadn't expected. Wolf pelts, weapons, and a single piece of jewelry. He held it up. A thin chain, broken in the middle. A locket? No. A pendant shaped like a crescent moon, cracked down the center. She was smaller than you, he said quietly. His voice no longer rumbled like command. It was softer, rawer. My true mate, hair as pale as snow. She used to laugh at the way I scowled at the world. My heart stuttered. Kyle's gaze dropped to the pendant, thumb brushing over it as though it might burn him. We were young. I thought strength was enough. But when rogues attacked the outpost, his jaw tightened, a muscle twitching. I was not fast enough, not strong enough. By the time I reached her, her blood had already cooled. The pendant snapped shut in his fist. His eyes, when they lifted, burned like molten gold. I killed them all, every last one. I tore the land red until there was nothing left but ash. The silence after his words stretched long, filled only by the crackle of fire. I had no idea what to say. Part of me, the part still broken by Damien, ached at the raw grief in his voice. But another part recoiled, because in that grief, I saw the monster he had become. He closed the distance between us in 2 strides, the pendant still clutched in his hand. Since that day, I have not looked at another, not once, until you. My breath caught, sharp and trembling. I'm not her. No. His free hand rose, fingers grazing my cheek in a touch so tender it didn't feel real. You are mine. Different. Wilder. My wolf has been silent for years, dead until you walked into my world. I shook my head, heart slamming against my ribs. This isn't love. It's obsession. His thumb traced the line of my jaw, unhurried, claiming, it is both. Do you think I care what name you give it? Love, obsession, madness. It does not change the truth. I will not lose you like I lost her. I shoved his chest, desperate to break free. He didn't move, but his hand dropped, giving me space I hadn't expected. His eyes softened again, an expression so fleeting I almost doubted I'd seen it. I will not cage you, Luna, he murmured. Not if you give me reason to trust you. But do not mistake my patience for weakness. I am not Damien. I will not release you. Damien. His name was a knife, twisting. I can't... My voice broke, shame burning my throat. I can't do this again. I can't lose myself in another bond just to be shattered. Kyle's jaw tightened, but when he spoke, his tone was steady, dark velvet wrapping around me. Then don't fight it. Don't fight me. Tears stung my eyes. I hated him. I hated how his words slipped under my skin like poison. And worse, I hated the part of me, the wolf in me, that leaned toward him, desperate for his strength, his warmth, his fire. Cale reached for my hand. I flinched, but he didn't force me. He simply placed the broken pendant into my palm, curling my fingers around it. Keep it, he said. Know this. I failed once. I will not fail again. You will not die. You will not leave me. Not while I still draw breath. I stared down at the cold metal biting into my skin, my heart racing so hard it hurt. His obsession was a storm, terrifying and consuming. But in the center of it, there was something else, something dangerously close to devotion. And I didn't know which frightened me more. The pendant Cale had pressed into my palm still felt like lead when I lay in bed that night. Its edges cut into my skin, a reminder of the ghost he carried, the weight of his vow never to lose again. I should have thrown it back at him, but instead I kept it clutched to my chest, as if its sharpness might anchor me against the chaos in my head. Sleep, when it came, was fitful. Flashes of Damien's rejection blended with Kyle's golden eyes. One voice told me I wasn't enough. The other promised I would never escape. Both tore at me until I woke with a cry. I stumbled to the window, staring at the forest beyond the stronghold. The night was heavy, thick with silence. But my wolf pricked her ears, restless. Something tugged at me. A presence. Familiar. And then I felt it. Him. My heart stuttered. Damien. I gripped the window frame until my knuckles ached. It couldn't be. He wouldn't dare come here, into Cale's territory. But the bond, what little still lingered, frayed and torn, burned suddenly, like a wound reopening. A pull that screamed his name inside me. The next day, when Kyle led me into the training grounds, I saw him. Damien stood at the far edge of the courtyard, surrounded by Kyle's warriors, his stance rigid, but his eyes locked on me like a starving man spotting food. I froze. My wolf whimpered, tail low, confused. My heart split open, anger and grief surging all at once. "Luna!" His voice cracked on my name. I wanted to spit at him, to scream, to remind him of every cruel word he'd thrown at me, every moment he'd looked at me like I was dirt under his boots. But my throat closed, and all I could manage was a whisper. "Why are you here?" Kale moved instantly, stepping in front of me, his massive frame a wall of golden power. His voice dropped into a growl that shook the ground. "You dare enter my land, Beta?" Damien's eyes flickered, just for a moment, to Kale, and then back to me. "I came for her." The air snapped, thick with danger. Kale's laugh was low, humorless, a blade dragged against stone. "You threw her away. She is mine now." Damien flinched, shame flashing across his face before he forced his shoulders back. "I made a mistake." His voice carried raw desperation. "Luna, His throat worked, his words breaking. "I thought rejecting you would free me, but it's killing me, my wolf. He's dying without you. I can't breathe. I can't sleep. Every second is agony." My heart lurched. For a moment, I almost pitied him. Almost. But then the memory of that night returned, his voice cold as ice, his rejection slicing me open in front of the entire pack. Tears burned in my eyes, but I forced my voice steady. "You should have thought of that before you shattered me." Damien staggered as though I had struck him, his lips parted, his wolf shining desperate through his gaze. "Luna, please." He stepped closer, only to freeze as Kale's growl thundered through the courtyard. "Another step," Kale said softly, dangerously, "and I'll tear you apart." The warriors shifted uneasily, the air thrumming with the promise of blood. But Damien didn't back down. His eyes never left me. "You're not safe with him. He's a monster. He'll consume you." "I know what he is, Luna. I've seen the things he's done." Kyle didn't flinch, didn't even blink. And yet she stands at my side. His hand brushed my arm, deliberate, claiming, "Not yours." Damien's face twisted with anguish. "You think this is choice?" He spat. "Can't you see it, Luna? He's binding you, controlling you. You're not free." Something inside me snapped. "Free?" My voice broke, rising into a scream. "You rejected me. You humiliated me in front of everyone. You left me bleeding, Damien. And now you talk about freedom?" He flinched, his chest heaving, guilt etched into every line of his face. "I was afraid." His words came ragged. "Afraid of what it meant to have a mate. Afraid I couldn't be what you deserved. So I pushed you away. I thought..." He shook his head violently, despair raw in his voice. "I thought I could live without you. But I can't." For the first time, I saw him not as the beta who had crushed me, but as a man unraveling. His wolf was withering, his pride crumbling, his desperation laid bare. But pity was a dangerous thing. Kale's hand tightened on my arm, his voice sharp as a blade. "She is not your cure. She is not your second chance. She is mine." Damien's gaze burned into me, pleading. "Luna, look at me. Do you still feel it, even after everything? Don't lie, you feel it. The bond isn't gone. It can't be gone." My chest heaved, torn between rage and grief. Because he was right. I did feel it. The remnants of our bond still pulsed faintly, like a scar that would never fully fade. But when I glanced at Kale, golden fire blazing in his eyes, my wolf surged forward with something fiercer. Two wolves pulled at me from opposite sides, one begging, one claiming, one who had broken me, one who would never let me go. Damien's eyes shone wet, his voice breaking. "I regret it, every second. Give me another chance. Please, Luna. Don't let him take you from me." Kale stepped forward, towering over him, his dominance radiating like wildfire. "She was never yours to keep, and now she never will be." The air crackled, violence seconds away from erupting. Warriors tightened their grips on their weapons, some glancing at me as though waiting for me to decide whose side I belonged to. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. It wasn't Damien or Kale who held the power, it was me. Because whichever wolf I chose, one would rise, and the other would break. The courtyard dissolved in chaos after Damien's desperate plea. Kale's warriors shoved him back toward the border, their snarls ringing in my ears. Damien fought, shouted, his eyes locked on me like if he just screamed loud enough, I'd break and run to him. I didn't move. My legs trembled, my chest ached, but I stayed rooted to the ground at Kale's side, his heat coiling around me like invisible chains. When Damien's voice finally faded into the distance, silence pressed heavy over everything. Kale didn't look at me. He only stood there, shoulders rigid, golden fire still blazing in his eyes. The air around him pulsed with restrained violence, and though I wanted to step away, I couldn't. My body stayed near his, as if my wolf had already chosen for me. When he finally turned, his gaze cut straight through me. You looked at him. The accusation slid under my skin like a blade. Of course I did. My throat tightened. He was my mate. Kale's jaw flexed, his nostrils flaring. I swallowed, forcing my voice steady. You don't get to erase what he meant to me, His growl stopped me cold, low and feral, reverberating through my bones. Do not finish that sentence. My hands shook, fury rising to battle the fear. You think you can control what I say, what I feel? I am not yours to command. His gaze darkened, and he stepped closer until his shadow swallowed me whole. Not yet, he murmured. I hated the way my heart stuttered. I hated the way my wolf leaned forward, ears perked, hungry for the dominance radiating off him. My body betrayed me, heat curling low in my belly, even as my mind screamed no. Stay away from me, I whispered, though my voice lacked conviction. Kale's eyes softened just barely, though the fire remained. You don't want that. I shook my head violently. You don't know what I want. Don't I? His voice dropped, velvet over steel. You think I don't feel it every time you look at me? Your pulse quickening, your scent shifting. You burn for me, Luna, and it terrifies you. My breath caught, shame scorching my cheeks. You're wrong. His hand lifted slowly, deliberately, until his fingers brushed a strand of hair from my face. The touch was so gentle it nearly undid me. Am I? I froze. Every instinct screamed to push him away, to run, but my body leaned into the warmth of his palm against my cheek. My wolf whimpered with need, pressing so hard I could barely hold her back. Kyle's face was so close now that I felt the heat of his breath, the storm of his power rolling off him in waves. His eyes searched mine, not mocking, not demanding, just watching, waiting. I hated him for that patience, because it made me want him more. Kyle. My voice cracked, warning and plea tangled together. His thumb brushed my jaw, slow and reverent, as though he wasn't touching a prisoner but something sacred. Say my name like that again, he whispered. The sound of it on my lips made my chest tighten. My heart pounded so loud it drowned everything else, and then, his head lowered just slightly. Our lips hovered a breath apart. My body trembled with the urge to close the distance, to surrender to the pull that had been clawing at me since the night he claimed me. My wolf surged forward, wild and desperate, but I forced myself to stop. I shoved at his chest, breath tearing out of me. No! The word cracked the air between us. Kale froze, his eyes blazing with barely restrained fire. His chest heaved as if he were holding himself back with chains. For a long moment, neither of us moved. Then, slowly he stepped back. His hand fell away, leaving my skin cold and aching. His voice, when it came, was rough. You fight me harder than any enemy I've ever faced. I wrapped my arms around myself, trying to steady my shaking. Because I refused to be property. I refused to be hers all over again. My voice broke, Damien's ghost slipping into the space between us. Kale's gaze softened, just enough to twist my heart. You are not hers. You are not his. You are not anyone's but your own. His eyes darkened again, smoldering. But you will choose me. In the end, you will. My breath hitched, anger and longing tangling until I could barely tell them apart. You're wrong. his lips curved into a dangerous smirk. "We'll see." And then he left, the door slamming behind him. I collapsed onto the bed, burying my face in my hands. My lips still tingled where his had almost touched mine. My body still thrummed with the echo of his presence. I hated him. I hated Damien. I hated myself most of all. Because in that moment, with Cale's heat still clinging to me, I wasn't sure which wolf I wanted to claim me. And that terrified me more than anything. The slam of Cale's door still echoed in my bones long after he left. The silence he abandoned me with was suffocating, thick with the ghosts of everything we hadn't done. My lips burned with the memory of his breath. My chest ached with the weight of his words. I curled on the edge of the bed, hugging my knees, torn between fury and longing. Every time I thought I'd found solid ground, the earth shifted beneath me. Damien's regret, Cale's obsession, my wolf's unrelenting hunger. It was all too much. And yet, the world refused to pause for me. By morning, the air was already charged with unrest. Shouts carried from the borders, the metallic stench of anger and wolf musk drifting on the wind. My skin prickled. Something was wrong. The door burst open without warning. One of Cale's warriors, broad-shouldered, his eyes flashing with urgency, bowed quickly. "Alpha requests your presence, now." My heart thudded painfully. What happened? He didn't answer. He didn't need to. I already knew. When I stepped into the courtyard, the scene before me nearly dropped me to my knees. Damien stood at the border, flanked by wolves from my old pack. Their eyes burned with loyalty, with conviction, with belief, and all of it was aimed at me. "Luna!" Damien's voice carried like a blade through the morning air. "Come home." My breath caught. Home. He said it like a promise, like nothing had ever been broken. But the scar on my heart pulsed, a reminder of his rejection, of the night he ripped my world apart. Cale stood across from him, his warriors spread out like a wall of steel and teeth. His posture was rigid, his power radiating in waves so strong I swayed on my feet. His eyes found mine for the briefest second, and in them burned a warning. "Stay behind me." Damien lifted his chin, eyes never leaving me. "She doesn't belong here, Cale. She's of our blood, our bond. She was mine." The words stabbed deep, reopening wounds I thought were starting to close. Cale's snarl shattered the air. "Was," he spat, voice rough with fury. He stepped forward, every line of his body screaming dominance, protection, possession. "You lost her the moment you broke her. You don't get to crawl back now and pretend she's yours." Damien's gaze flickered, but his resolve didn't falter. "You think claiming her with brute force makes her yours? She deserves a choice. She deserves a wolf strong enough to protect her," Cale thundered, his voice carrying like rolling thunder. "Not a coward who threw her away in front of his pack." A hush rippled through the warriors at Damien's side, but Damien's eyes never wavered. They softened, pleading, desperate, as they locked on mine. "Luna, listen to me. You don't belong in his world. You belong with us." "With me?" My throat tightened, my wolf pulling in two directions at once. Damien's voice was familiar, a tether to the girl I used to be. But Cale's presence wrapped around me like fire, dangerous but unyielding, impossible to ignore. "Say the word," Damien urged, taking a step closer, "and I'll fight for you until my last breath." Before I could even form a reply, Cale stepped into his path, a growl tearing from his chest so fierce the ground seemed to tremble. "No one touches what's mine." The declaration rang out like a battle cry, final and absolute. His warriors howled in answer, a chorus of savagery that made my skin prickle. Damien snarled, his own wolf blazing behind his eyes. "Then you've declared war." The air cracked with violence, the fragile line between words and blood snapping in an instant. Both packs bristled, teeth bared, claws itching for the first strike. And me? I stood frozen, torn in half. My heart screamed for freedom, my wolf screamed for Cale, and somewhere in the shadows of my soul, The ghost of Damien's bond still whispered home. Kale's hand shot back, gripping mine in a hold that burned. His voice, low but unshakable, brushed against my ear. "Stay with me, Luna. No matter what happens, stay." The war drums of paws and growls rose around us, the world shrinking to the space between Kale and Damien. Two wolves, two worlds, one heart splintering down the middle. And as the first claws tore into flesh, I realized the truth that hollowed me out completely. No matter who won this war, I was going to lose. The first strike tore the silence apart. Fur burst into the air, teeth flashed, and suddenly the world was nothing but snarls and screams. Kale's warriors collided with Damien's in a storm of claws and fury. The ground trembled beneath the weight of wolves tearing each other apart, and I was right in the center. Kale yanked me back behind him, his massive frame a wall between me and the chaos. His growls shook through my bones, primal and merciless. Every wolf that lunged near was ripped down with brutal efficiency, his claws cutting, his teeth snapping. But there were too many. Damien's wolves poured through the border like a tide, driven by his voice, by his promise. His eyes, those cursed eyes, kept finding me through the madness, burning with regret, determination, love that came too late. Every time our gazes locked, I faltered. My chest split in two, my wolf tugging against the tether Kale's hand still held tight. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move, couldn't decide. And then I heard it, Kale's snarl twisting into a pained grunt as claws raked across his shoulder. Blood spattered the dirt, steaming in the cool air. Something inside me snapped. "No!" My scream ripped out of me raw, shredded with terror. Both packs froze, just for a heartbeat, just long enough for the sound to sink into the marrow of every wolf present. And in that silence, my wolf broke free. Heat surged through me, violent and unstoppable. My skin burned, my bones cracked, my vision bled into silver fire. Pain consumed me, then exploded outward. When the shift finished, I wasn't me anymore. I was more. My paws hit the ground with a force that made the earth quake. Silver fur blazed under the moonlight, brighter than any flame. My reflection shimmered in the pool of blood at my feet. Not golden like Kale, not earthen like Damien, pure silver, rare and untamed. Gasps echoed around me. Both packs stumbled back, their snarls dying into stunned silence. Even Kale froze, his eyes wide with awe, blood dripping down his arm unnoticed. And then I howled. It wasn't just sound, it was power. The air itself vibrated, shaking leaves from the trees, rattling bones in their skin. Wolves dropped to their knees, ears flat, bodies bowing to the ancient force in my voice. I felt it, an awakening, a truth surging from somewhere deep and eternal. I wasn't just a mate to be claimed, wasn't just a bond to be fought over. I was something greater. My wolf was a weapon, a promise, a queen. The howl died on the wind, leaving an echo that lingered in every chest. Silence followed, thick, reverent, terrified. Damien's face was stricken, his wolf trembling behind his eyes. "Silver," he whispered, as if saying it made it more real. His hands shook at his sides. "You were never meant to be mine. You were meant to lead." Kyle's gaze never wavered. No fear, no hesitation, just fire. He stepped forward, slow, deliberate, his lips curving into something between reverence and triumph. "You are mine," he said, not a claim this time, but a vow, one wolf to another. The pack stirred, confusion twisting through their ranks. Some bowed toward me, unable to resist the pull of the silver wolf. Others growled, torn between loyalty to Kale, to Damien, to the very laws of the moon goddess. And me? My heart pounded, my mind a storm. The power inside me roared, wild and unyielding. For the first time, I wasn't being pulled between them. For the first time, they were being pulled by me. I shifted back, silver light still clinging to my skin like fire. My chest rose and fell, sweat and blood streaking me, but my voice was clear when it cut the air. Enough. The word wasn't a plea, it was command. and both packs obeyed. Kale's warriors lowered their heads. Damien's wolves froze mid-snarl. Even Damien himself flinched as if struck. I stood taller, the echo of my howl still humming in my veins. This war ends now. No one will decide my fate but me. Kale's gaze burned hotter than ever, pride mingling with hunger. Then decide, Luna. Damien's voice cracked, broken but desperate. Choose me. Choose us. Come home. 2 wolves, 2 worlds, and now, a third path blazing in silver fire. For the first time, I realized, maybe I wasn't meant to belong to either of them. Maybe they were meant to belong to me. The forest still trembled with the echo of my howl. Both packs stared at me as though I'd torn the moon out of the sky and set it burning in my veins. For the first time in my life, no one looked at me as a fragile mate to be claimed, or as a broken girl to be pitied. They looked at me with fear, with awe, and it terrified me. I stood between Kale and Damien, my body trembling with the aftershocks of my shift, the silver glow still fading from my skin. My heart thundered, but my voice had carried command, and for one breathless moment they had obeyed. But the moment shattered like glass. A snarl split the air as one of Damien's wolves lunged forward, rage overriding reverence. "She belongs to us," he roared, claws bared, fangs flashing. I barely had time to flinch. Kale was faster. His body collided with the wolf midair, a brutal crack ringing out as he slammed the attacker into the ground. Blood sprayed, a savage growl ripping from Kale's throat as his claws found flesh. The wolf whimpered once before going still, lifeless. The world froze around us. Kale rose, his chest heaving, his golden eyes burning hotter than the sun. He looked at me, not at Damien, not at the others, me. "I told you," he said, voice low but carrying across the clearing. "No one touches what's mine." But this time it wasn't a threat. It was a vow. Something inside me twisted, sharp and sweet all at once. My wolf stirred, not with fear, but with something dangerously close to surrender. Damien's face darkened, torn between grief for his fallen warrior and fury at Kale's dominance. His hand trembled as he pointed at me. "He'll burn you, Luna. He'll consume everything you are." Kale's jaw tightened, but he didn't rise to the bait. His eyes stayed locked on mine, steady and unyielding. For once, he didn't reach for me. He didn't try to cage me. He only stood there, bleeding, defiant, waiting. And I realized then, he wasn't asking me to trust his words. He was showing me his devotion in blood, in the way he shielded me without hesitation, in the way he bore his wounds without complaint. The packs shifted uneasily, the balance fragile, the night pregnant with violence. I raised my hand, still shaking, and spoke. "Enough." Again, the word carried weight, more than my voice alone. Power laced every syllable, silver and sharp. The wolves stilled. Even Damien lowered his gaze, if only for a breath. I turned to him, my heart breaking under the weight of his regret. "You chose to reject me, Damien. That bond is ash. You cannot claim what you threw away." His lips parted, pain flickering across his face, but I didn't let him speak. My eyes slid to Kale. "And you," I whispered, my chest aching with the fire he stoked in me. "You don't own me." A smirk ghosted across his lips, but his eyes softened, molten gold warming instead of scorching. "Then let me earn you." The words stole my breath. The packs began to retreat, uneasy, their leader's silence shaping their choice to stand down. Damien's wolves melted back into the trees, though his gaze lingered on me until the darkness swallowed him whole. Kyle didn't follow, he didn't taunt. He simply stood, bloodied and unbowed, as his warriors closed ranks around us. Later, when the moon dipped low and the clearing emptied, I found myself sitting by a fire Kale had ordered built. My hands trembled still, my body aching from the shift, but my mind was sharper than ever. Kale sat across from me, shirt discarded, his shoulder bandaged hastily where claws had torn him open. The firelight painted his skin in gold and shadow, his scars like stories written on his flesh. He didn't speak, he didn't command, He only watched me, quiet, patient. Finally, I broke the silence. Why? His brow lifted. Why what? Why protect me like that? Why not use me as an excuse to slaughter them all? Isn't that what an alpha like you would do? His lips curved, but not with arrogance, with something almost sad. Because you're not a prize to be won in blood. You're the fire itself, and I'd rather burn than see it extinguished. The words sank deep, curling inside me like embers catching flame. I hated how they made me want to lean closer, how they made me imagine what it would feel like to let myself fall into him completely. I looked away, my chest tight. I don't need you to fight my battles. No, he agreed softly. But I'll fight beside you, every time. For the first time, I believed him, and that terrified me more than any war. The fire burned low, crackling embers casting long shadows. Kyle's warriors had melted back into the forest, leaving us in a fragile pocket of quiet. My silver wolf still hummed inside me, restless, alive, as if my awakening had shifted something fundamental in the world itself. Kyle sat across from me, bare chest marked by fresh bandages, his gaze steady and unyielding. He didn't speak, didn't push, didn't press. And yet I felt him everywhere, in the crackle of the fire, in the thrum of my blood, in the pull of my wolf that leaned toward him despite my mind's protests. It was unbearable. I opened my mouth, searching for words to pierce the silence. But before I could speak, the wind shifted. My wolf stiffened, and then, movement. Figures burst from the trees, shadows moving too fast, too reckless. The stench of familiar musk flooded my senses, and my heart stuttered. Damien. He emerged from the darkness, his warriors flanking him, though fewer now, their eyes hollow with exhaustion and doubt. But Damien's burned with a feverish fire, his wolf clawing just beneath the surface, his body trembling with desperation. Luna. My name left his lips like a plea, like a curse. His chest rose and fell raggedly. I can't let you go. Kyle was on his feet in an instant, a growl tearing through the night so savage it rattled the ground. His body was a wall of fury between me and Damien, his claws unsheathing with lethal promise. You dare come here again? Kale's voice was thunder, dangerous enough to shake even his own men. After the mercy I showed you? Damien's eyes never left mine. Mercy. You stole her. You poisoned her against me. She was mine before you ever laid eyes on her. My chest tightened, the ghost of his rejection slamming into me all over again. Kale snarled, the sound feral. She was never yours. You broke the bond with your own hands. His muscles coiled, ready to strike. Because I was a fool, Damien roared, his voice cracking. His wolf flickered in his eyes, raw with pain. Because I was scared, and weak, and blind. But I see now, I feel it, every day, the emptiness eating me alive. I can't breathe without her. I'll die without her. The confession slammed into me like a physical blow. His voice was ragged, stripped bare of pride. He looked at me like I was salvation, like I was the only thing tethering him to this earth. Kyle moved faster than thought. One moment he was beside me. The next his hand was at Damien's throat, slamming him back into the nearest tree. The crack of bark splintering filled the night as Damien choked, claws scrabbling against Kale's iron grip. Then die, Kale snarled, his golden eyes blazing with merciless fire. Because she will never be yours again. Kale! I cried, scrambling to my feet. Damien's face darkened, his breath strangled. His eyes rolled, lips gasping around the crushing weight of Kale's hold. And for one horrifying moment, I thought he would do it. That he would end Damien's life right there, in front of me, without hesitation. My wolf howled inside me, not for Damien, not for Kale, but for me. For my choice. For my freedom. Stop! My voice cracked like a whip, laced with the silver power still thrumming through me. Kale froze, muscles trembling with the effort to hold back. His chest heaved, his teeth bared, his claws still poised for the killing strike. Release him. My words rang with command, not request. His eyes flicked to me, molten with fury and something else. Hurt, maybe, or the bitter taste of restraint. For a breath, I thought he might defy me. Then, with a snarl, he dropped Damien to the ground, like discarded prey. Damien crumpled, coughing, dragging air into his starving lungs. The silence after was suffocating. I stepped forward, my hands shaking, my heart a storm. I looked at Damien, broken, desperate, his eyes shining with everything I once begged to see in him. Then I looked at Cale, bloodied, furious, but reined in only because I had demanded it. And I realized the truth as sharp as any blade. "I am not yours," I said, voice trembling but clear. "Not yours," I added, turning to Damien, my chest aching with the finality. "And not yours," I whispered to Cale, though my wolf clawed in protest. Both men stiffened, their faces shadows of fury, regret, longing. "I will choose my path," I declared, my silver wolf rising in my voice, echoing in the night. "Not the moon goddess, not the bond, not either of you. Me." The fire flared behind me as if answering, sparks spiraling into the sky. Damien's shoulders sagged, his eyes hollow with grief, but still clinging to a shred of hope. Cale's jaw clenched, his body rigid, his gaze burning as though he'd devour the world to prove me wrong. And me? For the first time, I felt the weight of my power settle on my shoulders, not as a burden, but as a crown. The war between them wasn't over, but the war within me had shifted. I wasn't prey anymore. I was the fire they'd have to survive. The fire behind me guttered to ash, but the storm inside me raged on. Cale's golden eyes still burned into me. Damien's ragged breath still echoed in the night. My declaration, not yours, not anyone's, hung between us like a blade. But the world gave me no time to rest in that fragile freedom. The blood moon rose. Its crimson glow washed the forest in bloodlight, painting every leaf, every stone, every scar of our war in shades of scarlet. My silver wolf stirred, restless, uneasy. The pull of fate thrummed beneath my skin, heavy as chains. They came for me then. Elders, scouts, warriors from both packs, drawn by the light, by the scent of power, by the promise of a reckoning. Within an hour, the clearing swelled with bodies, wolves prowling, claws scraping earth, eyes gleaming. 2 packs, 2 armies, 2 paths colliding under the moon, and me, at the center. "Luna of silver fire," an elder's voice boomed, old and brittle as bone. His gaze pierced through the crowd, through me. "The blood moon demands resolution. You must stand before the councils and declare your choice." A choice. My heart twisted, bitter with the word. As if this was so simple. Pick one, claim a path, be sealed forever. They didn't see the storm. They didn't feel the fracture of my heart, the war between wolf and woman. Kyle stood tall at my right, unbowed, blood still staining his jaw. Every line of him a promise of dominance, devotion, obsession. He radiated strength that drew me like fire draws breath. My wolf clawed toward him, recognizing what it wanted, what it was made for. Damien stood at my left, battered, bruised, hollow-eyed, but alive. His regret poured from him like open wounds, and I could still see the boy I once begged to notice me, the boy who had cast me aside. His wolf whined low in his chest, tethered to me still by the cruel threads of what once was. The circle tightened. The council of both packs gathered, cloaked in tradition, bound to the old ways. They would witness my decision. They would enforce it. The blood moon pulsed above. My wolf rose with it, silver fur brushing against the edges of my skin, demanding release, demanding Cale. I trembled. Cale's voice broke the silence first, deep and sure. "She already knows," he growled, his gaze locked on mine. "Her wolf has chosen. You feel it, don't you, little flame?" His tone was not a question, but a claim. "It tears at you. It burns for me. There's no denying it." My breath hitched, traitorous, because he was right. My wolf howled within, straining to leap into his arms, to bow and rise under his strength. Every instinct screamed that he was mine, that I was his. But my heart whispered, not yet. Damien staggered forward, his body trembling, but his voice fierce. And what of her heart, Kale? You think the bond is enough? You think ripping at her instincts makes you worthy? No. She deserves more than a wolf who wants to own her. She deserves choice. She deserves freedom. His gaze found mine, desperate and tender. You were my mistake, Luna. My greatest mistake. And I will spend the rest of my life proving I see you now. Not just your wolf. You. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Wolves shifted restlessly, eyes darting between us, whispers like daggers in the night. The blood moon thundered through my veins, demanding I step forward, demanding I claim or be claimed. My wolf pushed at my skin, frantic, wild, aching to give in to Kale. I dropped to my knees, clutching my chest. The world blurred red and silver, heart and wolf colliding so violently I thought I would shatter. Luna, Kale's voice softened, the edge blunted by something rare, pleading. He crouched before me, his massive frame lowering, his hand hovering near mine but not touching. Don't fight what you are, don't deny it. I would burn the world for you. I already have. His golden eyes flickered, naked with truth. You are not my property. You are my fire, my equal, my salvation. Luna, Damien choked, his voice raw. He sank to his knees too, opposite Kale, broken and bleeding and bare. I can't ask forgiveness, I don't deserve it. But I will not stop fighting for you, not because of some mate bond, but because my soul is yours, with or without it. His hand trembled against the dirt. Choose me, not for fate, but for love. Two men, kneeling before me. Two wolves, two worlds. And me, torn in half under the blood moon. My wolf screamed, its silver song rising to the heavens, demanding Kale, clawing me toward him. My body burned with it, the pull so fierce I nearly fell into him then and there. But my heart whispered hesitation, fear, longing. It wasn't ready to bow to instinct alone. It needed proof. It needed time. It needed me. I rose, trembling, my knees weak, my body shaking with the effort to defy both the blood moon and the wolf within. The crowd hushed. I hear you both, I said, my voice breaking but steady enough to carry. I hear my wolf. I hear my heart. And I will not be rushed by fate, nor forced by tradition. The elders stiffened, mutters hissing through the circle. This was not how it was meant to go. I will choose, I declared, silver light rippling across my skin, my wolf's power crackling in the air. But not tonight. Not because the blood moon commands it. Not because councils demand it. I will choose when both my wolf and my heart speak as one. Until then, I lifted my chin, daring them to stop me. I belong to no one. Gasps tore through the clearing. The packs erupted, snarls and protests clashing in the night. Some cried blasphemy, others awe. But all eyes were on me, silver lit, trembling, defiant. Kale's face was a storm, pride and fury colliding, torn between killing Damien and scooping me into his arms. Damien's eyes brimmed with both devastation and fragile hope, as though my refusal to choose was the last thread keeping him alive. The blood moon thundered above, furious, unsated. But I stood tall beneath it, my wolf raging, my heart aching, my body alight with power, not prey, not pawn, the Luna. And this time the choice would be mine alone. The night did not sleep after my defiance. Even as the blood moon slid lower in the sky, the clearing burned with whispers, with outrage, with awe. Wolves prowled at the edges, teeth flashing, ears twitching at every shift of my body. The elders barked of tradition, of punishment, of the insult I had dealt to the goddess herself. But through it all, Kale never moved his gaze from me. His golden eyes tracked my every breath, the tension in my shoulders, the tremble of my hands. He was fury and hunger and restraint bound into one body, and it was unbearable. Damien lingered too, his chest heaving, his eyes sunken but alight with stubborn devotion. Yet there was a fragility in him now, a breaking I could almost smell on his skin. The packs eventually scattered, though uneasily. Councils muttered promises of judgment to come. Elders warned of omens, of curses. But I stood my ground, silver light still faintly shimmering over my skin, daring them all to test me. When the last of them slipped into the trees, silence finally swallowed the clearing. Only Kale and I remained, and the air between us was molten. I turned to leave, to vanish into the shadows, before the storm inside me broke open, but his voice stopped me cold. Luna. Just my name, but it held enough weight to pin me in place. Slowly, I turned. Kyle stood at the edge of the dying fire, its embers carving hard lines across his jaw, gilding the fierce hunger in his eyes. His chest rose and fell with controlled breaths, but I could feel his wolf pacing beneath his skin, restless, wild, desperate. "You defied the blood moon itself," he said, low and rough. "Do you know what that means?" My chin lifted. "It means I belong to myself." A flicker of something crossed his face. Frustration, admiration, both. He stalked toward me, each step slow, deliberate, like a predator circling prey he already knew was his. I refused to back away. When he stood before me, his shadow engulfing mine, his scent flooding my senses, cedar, smoke, the raw spice of dominance, my wolf clawed at my ribs. "You think you can resist forever?" he murmured, his voice dark silk. "You think the bond will grow quieter? No, little flame. It will only grow louder, until it burns you alive. And if it does?" My words were sharp, but my voice trembled. "What then, Kale? Do you want a mate who only came to you because the fire destroyed her?" His jaw clenched, then softer, almost broken. "No, I want a mate who walks into the fire with me." The silence that followed stretched tight as wire. And then, before I could breathe, he caught my wrist. Not rough, but firm enough to steal my balance, and pulled me closer. Not against him, not yet, but close enough that the heat of him soaked into my skin. "I swore I would not force you," he said, his voice low, ragged. "But understand me, Luna. Every moment I hold back feels like I'm ripping my own wolf apart. You are mine in ways neither of us can deny. And I..." His throat bobbed, his eyes blazing gold. "I am yours." The words shattered something inside me. I had fought, resisted, screamed against destiny. I had told myself I was free, untouched, untamed. Yet here, under the dying glow of the blood moon, facing this alpha who had once terrified me, I felt the truth thrumming through my bones. My wolf was no longer screaming Kale. It was whispering love. I trembled, breathless, as his hand slid from my wrist to the curve of my jaw, calloused thumb grazing my cheek. His touch burned, yet it steadied me. "Say the word," he murmured, "and I'll step back. I'll wait. I'll let this torment consume me until you're ready." His lips hovered near mine, so close I felt the ghost of his breath. Or... The rest never left his tongue. Because I moved. I surged forward, closing the distance in a single, desperate breath. My lips crashed against his, not soft, not tentative, but fierce, hungry, defiant, claiming him as much as he claimed me. The world exploded. Kyle groaned into the kiss, the sound deep and guttural, as if years of restraint crumbled in an instant. His arms wrapped around me, pulling me flush against his body, and the bond ignited like wildfire. It wasn't just a kiss. It was a shattering. The mate bond roared to life, silver and gold threads weaving through my veins, burning away the last of my doubt. My wolf howled in ecstasy, my body trembling as Kale deepened the kiss, one hand tangled in my hair, the other anchoring me to him as though I might vanish. Heat spiraled, tangled with something deeper: devotion, need, fear, salvation. He kissed me like he'd been drowning, and I was air, like every scar, every loss. Every hollow place inside him had been waiting for this moment to be filled. When he finally tore his lips from mine, his forehead rested against mine, his breath harsh, his eyes glowing molten gold. "You're mine," he rasped. Not because fate says so, because you chose me. I swallowed hard, my chest heaving, my lips swollen from his. Yes, I whispered, my voice breaking on the word. I choose you. The bond sealed then, a surge of power blasting outward from our joined bodies, rattling the trees, silencing the forest. Wolves in the distance howled, recognizing the birth of something unbreakable. Kale's hands shook as he cupped my face, pressing one last fierce kiss to my lips, softer this time, reverent. You'll never be caged, Luna, he swore against my mouth. I'll fight every day to prove it. You're my equal, my fire, my Luna. And for the first time since Damien's rejection, since the endless ache of being unworthy, I felt whole, not claimed, not conquered, chosen. The forest still hummed with the echo of our bond. That kiss, the one that had sealed me to Kale, still burned on my lips, a fire I knew would never go out. But with the fire came weight, a new current thrumming in my veins. The mate bond wasn't just a tether, it was power, fierce and raw, and it clawed through my blood like lightning. Kale felt it too. His hand still framed my face, his chest pressed to mine, but his golden eyes widened with something beyond hunger, something like reverence. Do you feel that little flame? He whispered, his voice hoarse. The world just shifted. I did. The earth beneath my feet vibrated, the air itself trembling, as though the goddess had marked me anew. No longer broken, no longer rejected, reborn. But not everyone celebrated. From the shadows of the trees, wolves emerged, elders, warriors, both packs, drawn back by the surge of energy that had rippled through the night like a shockwave. Their eyes shone, reflecting the blood moon's dying glow. Some looked awed, others terrified. She has defied the old ways, one elder spat, his voice trembling with fury. No wolf may delay the blood moon's verdict and claim to remain favored. She is cursed. No, Kale growled, his voice rumbling like thunder. He stepped forward, dragging me with him, his arm anchoring me against his chest. She is chosen. By me. By her wolf. By the goddess herself. Look at her. His voice rose, carrying across the clearing. Look at what she has become. Their gazes shifted to me, and I knew they saw it. The faint shimmer of silver light still dancing over my skin. The glow in my eyes. The undeniable pulse of power that radiated from my body with every heartbeat. I was no cursed thing. I was a storm made flesh. Silver, one whispered, awestruck. She carries the blood of the silver Luna. The name rippled through the crowd, whispered from one mouth to another. Legends long buried began to stir. A Luna born of silver flame, destined to unite and strengthen, not submit and fracture. I stood taller, though my body shook. I am not broken, I said, my voice steady, loud enough for all to hear. I was rejected, yes, but that rejection forged me. I am no one's cast-off. I am no one's pawn. I am Luna by choice, by fire, by strength. Kyle's hand tightened on me, pride radiating off him in waves. But Damien's eyes broke. His lips parted, his face pale as the truth struck him. He had lost me. Truly, finally, lost me. His wolf whined, the sound heart-wrenching, but he did not step forward. He bowed his head instead, defeat etched into every line of his body. The crowd stirred, waiting, wondering if Kale would press for blood, for war. But Kale surprised them, surprised me. I will not slaughter a beaten wolf, he declared, his voice a growl that silenced every whisper. Let this be the end of it. My Luna has chosen, and through her, I choose peace. But know this. His gaze swept over them, sharp as a blade. Any who threaten her will find my claws at their throat. The air crackled. The war that had threatened to swallow us all seemed to tremble on the edge, then ease, the packs shifting uneasily but saying nothing more. The power of my bond with Kyle hung heavy, unchallenged. The moment the last of the elders retreated into the night, Kyle turned to me. His hands cupped my face again, trembling now not with rage but with something far more dangerous: tenderness. "You saved me," he whispered. His lips brushed mine, featherlight, teasing, testing. "From myself. From the darkness I've lived in since my mate died. You made me feel alive again." His voice broke, raw and bare. "And I swear to you, Luna, my fire, my equal, I will never let anyone break you again." Suspense coiled in my chest. His words hovered between vow and plea. My wolf pressed hard against my skin, desperate for him, but my heart was finally ready. So I kissed him, not gentle this time, not testing. I seized him, fisting my hands in his shirt, dragging him down to me. Our mouths crashed together, tongues tangling, teeth scraping, a clash as fierce as any battle. The bond flared again, brighter, stronger, searing through us until I thought my body would split open from the force of it. Kyle groaned against me, deep and guttural, one hand gripping my waist, the other tangled in my hair as though he couldn't decide whether to worship me or devour me. His kiss was fire and storm and promise, and I melted into it, into him, into us. When he tore away, his forehead pressed to mine, both of us gasping for breath, his eyes glowed gold brighter than I'd ever seen. "You are mine," he whispered, but softer this time, reverent. "And I am yours, not cage and captive, not alpha and subject, equal, always." The words settled into me like roots, steadying, anchoring, completing. The moon slipped lower, pale silver bleeding back into the sky, but my eyes lifted to it all the same. For so long, the moon had been a curse, a cruel reminder of bonds and rejections, of pain and unworthiness. But now it was a witness to my rebirth. "Thank you," I whispered to the night, to the goddess, to the cruel fate that had once broken me. "Thank you for shattering me so I could be made whole again." Kale's arms wrapped around me from behind, his lips brushing my temple in one last lingering kiss. His chest rumbled with a low, content growl as he held me tight. And under the fading blood moon, with Kale's strength at my back and my wolf howling silver fire through my veins, I rose, not as a rejected mate, not as prey, not as pawn, but as the Silver Luna.
Thank you for joining our Untamed Hearts family. If you loved this story, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to stay with us for more alpha omega adventures, steamy encounters, and heart-stopping romance. Remember, in the world of tales by Jenny Moon, love is wild, hearts are untamed, and your next unforgettable story is just a heartbeat away. Until next time, stay passionate, stay wild, stay untamed.